Hail them.
Hailing frequencies open, sir.
Hailing frequencies. Open.
I don't know why I keep giving alien street food a chance. It's always such a gamble.
Captain, we're being hailed.
On screen.
Full disclosure, this is the second time we've done this because the internet just died. And the first time we did this, I said, I really thought about changing our intro, our theme song for this season. And I spent a lot of time downloading royalty-free music and editing it and putting in things. And in the end, I decided not to change it. So that was a good story. Hello, welcome to Hailing Frequencies Open, where we're trekking through the past and future of Star Trek. I'm Mike Jones, and joining me today, he's getting used to having a corporeal body. It's Damien.
I'm still, it's a long road to getting used to this corporeal body. It's making me very awkward, and I'm walking into a lot of walls, and I'm unsure of the length of my limbs, and that has been my lot in life since having this corporeal body. So,
well, the worst part
it's a long
is
road getting from here
as
to
you
there.
get older, it starts to degrade.
Yes. Yes, I'm feeling that. I know, in my early to late 40s.
She's dying to say something. So when we're done recording here, she has to pop into a wormhole and repair the timeline. It's Lanita.
Oh, that's going to be a big job because that timeline is fucked.
You got to go back to 2016, I think.
That timeline? Oh, God. Well, the timeline needs to go back a lot further than that, but
Amen.
We'll stick with the timey-wimey of Prodigy.
That's right. We are talking about season 2 of Star Trek Prodigy, the timey-wimey season. And just up front, I'm going to get this out of the way. Spoilers. Spoiler alert. If you haven't watched the second season of Star Trek Prodigy, the whole season, the entire, all 20 episodes,
go away.
Hit pause, come back to us later, go enjoy it at your own pace.
Correct.
And we look forward to talking to you later. But if you've binged it like we have,
powered through, kept it going.
If you're dying to talk about it, then please continue to listen and scream at your speakers as you agree or disagree with us. And which is how I imagine people listen to us.
If you haven't watched it yet, we urge you to instead go into our archive and listen to any one of our still very evergreen episodes where we talk about things that are still very pertinent.
Exactly. I love that mine was like, turn off the thing, go watch Prodigy. And you were like, no, just
still
listen.
We still got episodes. Remember we have episodes. You haven't heard them all. Go listen, go back.
We got some NSFW episodes that are really very filthy. I'm embarrassed to be a part of it.
Lies.
You too can blush.
Lies.
Yeah. So far, what I found other podcasts and people are doing are they're breaking it down and talking about 1 or 2 episodes at a time, or the season, it's 20 episodes. It kind of breaks down to groups of 5 plot wise. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people are kind of looking at the first 5 and then looking at the next 5. But we are just jumping to the end.
We said 20.
There's a lot to talk about. So spoilers everywhere. So let's start with what did you think was going to happen in the second season? Like what were your hopes?
I don't know if they were hopes, but
fears.
No, not even that. Just like I thought it was going to be, we were going to cadet school. Like I thought it was going to be the animated version of cadet school, and like what sort of mishaps ensued there on the planet.
Yeah, Starfleet Academy. Like then we would have 2 Starfleet Academy shows.
But it would be different because the cadet school that we're gonna watch with actual humans can't do the things that the animated could, right? Like that's what we learned about Lower Decks, is that they're able to do things that are seemingly impossible with human or humanoid, actual living, breathing people, even with CGI.
Maybe it's because I have binged season 2 so rapidly that I experienced it very differently from season 1. And I think Lanita and I had some of the same things where it's like a little hard to invest early on. I got on board with these kids. I liked them. But it still felt like kind of for kids. And I expected more of that. I expected sort of like more of a like kid hijinks kind of story, which actually this was
coming of age sort of thing.
I don't even know. It
I
just
don't know.
I did not expect it to deliver the magnitude of legacy beat that it did. That it got me on a number of different levels, and I think it was better than the first season. And I was surprised at how much I really loved it.
Yes, I really liked it a lot better than the first season. I think they got a lot more things right, but sometimes I guess the speed with which I watched it.
Yeah.
I still sometimes just got annoyed, like, why are we making that decision? But of course, it's because it is literally for kids. Like, I can't bring my adult logic to like the decisions that these kids are, because they're kids. And I'm like, come on.
And they are kids. They're not Wesley Crusher. They're not like model perfect kids.
No.
They're smart and they're talented and they have skills, but they don't make good decisions.
Correct. They
have a lot of good luck.
Guidance.
Yes.
No good decisions.
Yeah, I think that I also was expecting like them at the Academy, under Admiral Janeway's tutelage. I think I had read that they're going to be on the Voyager A together, or maybe they even said that at the end of last season. But I wasn't. I guess I was expecting a little bit more, more school.
More school.
But it reminds me, and from the beginning, there have been people comparing it to Star Wars, and it reminds me of the Clone Wars series, the Star Wars Clone Wars.
Didn't watch it. I've seen one Star Wars movie, and it was the one with Jar Jar Binks. That's it. And everyone's like, with frickin'
you saw
Darth Maul, Darth Maul, and Natalie Portman, and that was like, oh no, not for me.
I think I really thought that because of the way it's animated. They're both like this computer animation.
Yeah.
And one thing I noticed this season, and maybe it's because we had more human characters. Like the alien characters can be drawn a little bit more dramatically, like they're the
time bugs.
Yeah. They're really bizarre looking, and even our alien officers can be really slim faced or kind of the proportions are a little off, but the human characters are drawn with pretty normal proportions. But I found that their movements didn't really match the emotional intensity that the actors were doing. Like Kate Mulgrew was giving a performance, but her character's face wasn't giving the performance that she would,
because she didn't have all the little nodes on her face, so that the animation actually matched her face, a la Precious in Lord of the Rings.
Oh, sure, right.
Gollum.
Yeah. It's not motion capture. Yeah.
Do you like? I think maybe that is how you elevate the human characters in this, because it wasn't like it was Uncanny Valley, but it was awkward. Like Wesley Crusher looked awkward. Beverly looked awkward. Didn't look
video
like her.
game.
Yeah.
I actually disagree with you guys about Wesley, because I just felt like it was a different. It may not be like a realistic depiction of Will Wheaton, but it felt like Wesley who had been through some shit. Do you know? Like he felt a little bit more weathered. He felt a little bit more.
No, he was rode hard and put back wet. Like he's seen some things in his traveling.
Right, which is sort of, I'm choosing my words because I feel like I still am holding out hope that we can be friends with the week. I don't want to. I don't want. he is a little the animated version, he sort of has like a soft face, and where the animated version has maybe a harder face.
That's what I mean.
Well, they all do.
They all do.
The way they're drawn, the features are chiseled, whether they would be in real life or not. I will say, it's funny. We had this conversation about how Wesley Crusher looked, and in the final episode, someone's looking at a pad of like pictures of everybody, and in that picture, in his like file, he looked great. And it made me realize that, they were really showing us that he had been going through stuff. Like he had dark circles under his eyes.
Yes.
Not because they were drawing him poorly, but because he, was trying to keep the universe together.
Also, as a time traveler, we have he could be very, very old.
That's true.
At this point, like we don't know how old he is.
Here's my question. When he became a time traveler, did he become immortal like Q?
I don't think so. I don't think so because we see the Traveler in the early Next Generation. The Traveler is sick.
Yeah.
Do you remember? And he's like, he needs help. Like he's not, he doesn't feel, he's powerful, but he doesn't feel immortal.
Okay.
And
so sort of like vampires aren't, that's bad because they are kind of immortal, but they're not because they can be killed, but they just live a really long time. I know they just live a really, really long time. So maybe the Travelers, like being a Traveler extends your life by maybe a couple hundred years,
maybe, or maybe. I definitely think that's not answered. But speaking of, okay, let's just jump to Wesley Crusher. So first of all, was thrilled to see him. I
same.
Spoilers had already told me he was going to be in the show.
I had none.
I don't think I knew.
I went into this,
no.
like Mike Jones, I went into this so blind because knew that I was being forced to watch it.
Yes.
I was like, I guess I got to do this. And so I was like, they brought the boy Wonder back. Super fun. And he was funny. That's what he wasn't annoying. He was like funny. Like he was comic relief a little bit. And also David and also he was like, he had matured in the way that you hoped that the character had matured when he left the ship.
But that was that he had moments of there was a humbleness to him in moments that he handled in a way where you were like, this is when I think when one was at Rock Talk is like, you were a Traveler and Nova Squadron and acting ensign at 15 and
whole thing ran down his resume and he was like,
and he's like a little humble about it, but at the same time he's kind of like, well, let me not like in that order, right? He's like, he has a moment he kind of was that, like, you could see that bratty teenager that we knew on the Enterprise, and it was all grown up and like learned to be humble, or in a way that maybe TNG season 1 Wesley was not.
Correct. He would have been like, but he would have been like, you forgot that I actually became an acting ensign at 14 and a half, not 15.
Right.
That you made that's a very good point.
That's great.
Yeah. I mean, ran it down.
First season of TNG, he was like, Doll. I mean, he was, very cocky and eager and wanted to sit in that captain's seat immediately,
Immediately.
Speaking of the Travelers, one line that I don't think it was explained, but he said when the Travelers left this timeline, they left behind this office or whatever, this space. It was the I'm like, so wait, the Travelers left our reality? Like you're the only one left? Is that what we're saying? What's the story with the Travelers?
It did seem like he was the only one of his kind left, like what's her face in the Progerians. Nope. The folks at Burnham found
Progenitors.
The Progenitors?
Yeah, like, because really she was the only one left in that space waiting for Burnham. So it's sort of like, was Wesley.
She was a projection though. She wasn't really there. She was like a
there you go, gone. So like maybe Wesley was the last of the traveler kind in this time and space because
Right.
some major thing happened and they all got some terrible disease and died, and Wesley Crusher is it.
Or have they just,
And
because he says he moves between realities, right? In between
That's true.
universes. He says, this is the
Yes.
universe where my mom lives.
That's
Yeah.
true.
I
Yeah.
don't get back here enough. No, you
Right.
sure
That's
don't,
true.
sir. And that was
Well,
the
and
same Wesley Crusher we know.
it adds to, it makes it seem a little more important that when he pops up in Picard, he's recruiting, what's her name?
Corey. Yeah.
To be a traveler, because does that make her like the second traveler that's still working in this universe? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's really important. Then it's not just
Mhm.
like Doctor Who recruiting a companion. It's a
Yeah.
little bigger than that. He was very Doctor Who like, though. There was kind of a giddiness and like playing with the timelines and explaining it all, and
Yeah.
too many thoughts to get out at once, and like I enjoyed that.
But it's interesting. But the thing is, he was not okay, because you know that I am completionist, so I'm still on the first Doctor. Like they're like 20-minute episodes, but it's slow. The acting in the freaking 60s, it's like, my God, can we fight, please? Like, okay, anyway, sorry. His giddiness is like the current Doctor.
Yes.
Like the
Oh,
current Doctor is kind of mad in a way, like Mad Hattery, and I don't know how to feel about him. He's too happy, smiley people. He's
Yeah.
serious. Like I know that I'm like giving it like a one over gloss, but to come off of lesbian Jodie Whittaker in her jorts, not as giddy, and then previously, very serious. Like
Yeah,
there
yeah.
seem to be more serious doctors, and so this iteration of the Doctor is Wesley Crusher right now, being like, "Oh, I can't get them all out. The thoughts. What timeline are we
Right.
in?" Type of deal.
I expected Wesley Crusher to want to eat fish fingers and custard,
Custard.
like you know what I mean, like
what does that
like,
mean? I don't know what that means.
that's the Matt Smith's Doctor, that's like something that he does.
He eats
What?
And it's so like,
I know
what? It's
I've
like fish
seen
fingers,
all
like
this.
it's
Oh,
like that
all right.
kind of craziness, that kind of
I do
weirdness.
not remember that.
Oh, it was like, you're doing what?
What?
It's like, it's delicious. Yeah, it was his.
Yeah,
It was his.
it's his first appearance,
Mhm.
and I think that they were trying to show that he was very different from David Tennant, who had a silly side but was also like very serious. You know what I mean? Like save reality serious. And Matt Smith was a little bit. I like fezzes. Fezzes are cool.
Aren't they cool?
Right.
Anyway,
also, how about his coat? I mean, that to me was like the whole look of Wesley was like what felt very Doctor Who.
yeah,
But also, I mean, which was mainly the coat, but also the sweater that he wore was that pumpkin colored sweater that he
right.
wore when he first met the Traveler as a 15-year-old. It's the
So
same
he's
sweater.
not.
It's
So
the
he's
same
not.
sweater.
So he's been in the same clothes.
No, I think it must be
I-
freezing on that hidden planet, because that he's wearing a sweater and that heavy coat. They're inside. He's also
Right.
wearing like combat boots.
Maybe becoming a traveler lowers your core body temperature, where you have an inability to regulate your body heat. So you need to be like a snake and always be in something warm.
We need to get him a slanket.
Yes.
But I love that his sort of giddiness really felt like it came from the massive amount of information that is in his brain from having such a larger understanding of the universe, that he just can't get it all out fast enough, and that he can't he jumps around. He doesn't focus. It's hard for him to focus in the same way because he's just got too much information. He's just got too much to say and too much to figure out. And
But sorry.
Go
But
ahead.
also, no, but also it's like, it's not that he has too much information, it's that he has all of the information, and that the information changes based on decisions that someone is making in the present timeline, which changes. Do you know, like, that's why it's like, yes, he has all the information. When he literally said, I did not see this as an option,
Right.
when they separated, when he said,
Right,
you
into
all
two
have to
groups.
stay together. And they
Right.
thought, we together, we here, but we doing
Right.
something different.
We are family.
Exactly. He just was like, that was not in my plan.
Right.
So I do not know what's going to happen.
Right.
Something else was
And he also has to filter, he can't say too much. Like he let slip something about the mycelial network and was like, wait, no, you're not supposed to know that. Forget that,
Right.
Yeah.
So that's got to be holding him back a little bit. And
did you feel like any Doctor Who similarities were an homage, a ripoff, or coincidental?
I don't think a ripoff.
Let me go down the ripoff road a little bit. So, no, but Assignment Earth, the TOS episode where they introduced Gary Seven, who had a magic pen and traveled through space and time, and a cat, and this like cool
Terry
computer.
Garr was in the episode.
Terry Garr was in the episode.
Very like 1960s spy.
It has been argued that was a ripoff of Doctor Who, which had premiered a couple years before. So, and they go back to that office. Like, that's the cool 60s office with the tiki mugs that Wesley Crusher brings them all to. Like, he's in Gary Seven's office with that computer system and everything. So no, I don't think they were ripping off, but I love that homage to Gary Seven, who was, because it was a backdoor pilot. It was supposed to be its own show.
Right.
And it would have been like the American version of Doctor Who. I see you're Googling Gary Seven.
I am totally Googling because
we should go back and watch that episode. We should watch some TOS. I know that the acting in the 60s is stiff.
Please?
Yes.
No. The acting in the Doctor Who British acting is stiff.
BBC acting.
It's no. I enjoy TOS. Like fights are fights. Like, because Americans need action. So if you don't have action, we're not watching. I would love that. I would love for us to go like watch some TOS. I think it'd be fun. Anyway,
let's talk about other characters who popped up that we were happy to see, or that I was happy to see. The Doctor. I was so thrilled to see the Doctor.
Happy.
Oh my God. So I was doing like a little rewatch yesterday. I think I maybe got a little bit more than halfway through it, like a second time, which I needed to make sense of it all. And Majel distracts the Doctor by asking him for an opera lesson. Like,
yes,
it's so good. It's so good.
Perfect.
And he's like, just like, it plays right into his sort of like narcissism. Oh, yeah. It's so good. It's so good. He's as good as ever.
Yeah,
he really is. Now, I will say it was a little weird, some of the things he was doing. Like, why was he the one showing the kids around the ship and giving them their homework or whatever? But I think that Janeway she knew she would be busy, and that they react well to a holographic, mentor. And she was like, well, I know the best holographic mentor, in existence, my friend, the Doctor,
my friend.
Yeah. No, it made perfect sense to me that he, because he's more than a doctor, and also because he was, think about how he loved being a mentor to Kes and to Seven, and how kind of comically bad he was at it sometimes, like, it's gold.
And think about it, like the growth, right? It's like of that character as well. Like, oh, we haven't seen the Doctor in forever. Like, there's some upgrades. Of course, he's got his little mobile emitter. He can leave. But I also thought about the fact that he can be anywhere with them, right? Like, you can just pop in and pop out, right? Like, he can get through doors. He can get through walls. He can, y'all want to be in a Jeffrey's tube? I can be there immediately, type of deal. Like, he is the best person to watch them because they are kids and they need supervision.
Also, by the way, the Jeffries tubes are so much bigger because the kids are small. It's so cute.
They're just walking through. Doop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop. Except
Yep.
Raku cannot fit in a Jeffries tube.
Poor Rock. Who else do we see? Oh, well, Chakotay.
Yes, who they made very thin.
Yeah.
I was like,
they kind of made everybody thin. Okay. Skipping. I know I just started Chakotay, but let's go to Admiral Janeway because I know she was in last season. I wanted them to make her look a little bit more like real life Kate Mulgrew.
Sure.
She's very thin, but then hologram Janeway is much thinner than Kate Mulgrew was in the 90s. Like they've it's part of the aesthetic.
Also, by the way, this is not so if our current timeline,
right,
if present day with air quotes is somewhere around the end of Picard season 3, we're several years after, or rather before that, right? So Janeway is not yet as old
as they made
in
her.
this as present day as Admiral Janeway, the off-screen character in Star Trek Picard, is much older, right? Because the Mars attacks happen the
synth.
It's on my timeline. The Mars attack is 2385.
Okay.
This whole season takes place basically in 2384 and ends in 2385. Voyager got home in 2377. So she should look, what is that? What's 84 minus 77?
So she's
just a few years older.
Just a few years older. Whereas now, and then what year is Picard season 3? We're now in the 25s, right?
That's a good question.
Or the 24s, right?
Well, because the attack on Mars was 85, but I don't know how quickly we move forward in that series. I didn't put that in my timeline. Yeah.
Years pass. So I wouldn't expect Janeway to be as old as current Kate Mulgrew, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
But they did have to make her older and slightly more. They had to make a distinction between holographic Janeway and real Janeway. So the easiest way to do that was to age her and give her a little gray, like to give her
a little gray,
a little gray in her hair and fill her out just a little bit,
just a tiny bit,
a smidge. And I used air quotes with "fill her out" because everybody, of course, is Hollywood ready.
Yeah, sure. Again, it's the human characters that look a little off to me, and that's just because I'm comparing them to the human actors,
actual humans.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like and that, remember how I said I couldn't get really into it because they're all aliens and there's nothing for me to relate to?
Yes.
Here we've got more human characters, and it's like, oh, but you made them weird. But it's fine. I get it. We saw Chakotay. We got Wesley.
Yep.
We got Beverly for 2.5 seconds. That was the worst of the animation.
They made her very thin, and her hair was pulled back in a weird way.
I was like, who is that?
Yeah, it did not look like her at all. I do love that they gave us a scene where Wesley talks to her.
Absolutely.
And meets his brother,
Right. Because
that was the greatest. I was like, yes.
Yes, because Picard and actually in Picard season 3, they do acknowledge Wesley, and they do acknowledge that she loses him in a way.
Yeah. She lost her first son to space, and she wasn't going to lose her second brother,
Yes. So it was a satisfying tie-in.
It really was.
Yeah. There's nothing to be gained by not offering that,
Right.
Correct.
Right. It was purely for us. I mean, the whole show was I think for us. Well, here's a question. Do you think that it really is a kid's show?
That's what I don't know.
I think that it's it's like animated movies that have adult jokes in them.
Sure.
Okay.
So this is, yes, it is for kids. However, these Easter eggs and these callbacks and these characters that as adults know, it's like that's for us. But everything else, like the bad decisions of the kids, the fighting the space worms, the, you know, all of that is for the kids. But like the Beverly Crusher, we know the history between Chakotay and Janeway.
Right.
Kids
Right.
don't. They're just like, oh, they know as much as they told them, which is
Right.
enough for them to
Yeah.
buy into her wanting to go rescue him. For us, we're like, hell yeah, she's gonna go rescue him. They were thick as thieves. Like
Yeah.
he was her person, right? So I just think it's like any animated movie. The kids get a part of it and then the adults get a part of it so
That
that
makes
we're not
sense.
bored out of our skulls watching it.
I also, as someone who doesn't have children, I underestimate how smart kids are, I think. But
Yes.
the time travel confused me.
That's what I was gonna say.
But I think would it confuse? Maybe not. Maybe they would just like take it at face value in a way that I was like, no, that doesn't make sense.
And that's the other thing. Like, it's not that the time travel confused me. It's the repercussions of it that made
Yeah.
my brain hurt, where it's like, okay, I understand if this one thing does not happen, it changes the fact that you don't exist.
Right.
However, jumping to the end, they put the ship back, but does her father ever become evil to go to make the mining place and make her? Right? Because isn't she created there?
Yes, please refresh my memory about this because that felt like ages ago. And
It was ages ago. It's like we're on this mining colony. He is our diviner. He is searching for something. I guess this
The
ship.
protostar.
He's searching for the protostar. He created Gwen to, I don't know, be his minion in charge. He never seemed like he loved her. She was just a tool to use. Eventually she goes with them. Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
So in this season, she gets to go to Solaris. What their planet called?
Solum.
Solum.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was close. Goes to Solum, finds out that he just looks at the stars. He's a gentle tea drink. I'm just making this up. Like he's a gentle tea drinking
He drinks
hippie
chamomile.
who's like literally staring at the stars, and he wants to be Galileo.
He's not the diviner yet. He's just
not
a young astronomer in a society that doesn't care about the stars.
Correct. So how does everything that they have done, fighting what's her face, fixing the timeline, getting rid of the time bugs, does it then put him on the path to become our diviner? Or does it just solidify her reality, her being real in the present time?
Well, that's the question. If there is no civil war on Solum, Solum? Now I'm doubting myself. Solum. If there is no civil war in Solum, then does he create her? Like, did he only make her as part of his plot to, go back and destroy Starfleet before they could make first contact? Or was that always on his like pet project list of things like, oh yeah, make a kid,
a child
in a lab, but I'm still going to do that, even though I'm going to go do this stuff. You know what I mean? That's really the question. And I think it could be that, this is something that the Kelvin movies relied on a little too heavily, that there are a few fixed facts that you can't really change, like Kirk and Spock are going to be linked to their, like nothing can tear them apart. And maybe the creation of her is one of those things where,
and that's what I was
thinking.
thinking.
There's no civil war, he's still gonna make her,
But also I was thinking that they just needed to put the piece that was plucked from the board back to where it was. And regardless, the present will stay like for them, that crew, the present will stay the present, and maybe it will be a new something on Solum. Like that's where the change happens, not that the diviner is created and Zero makes him go crazy and ba. Like, I think that it just needed to be set back on the board. So whatever had happened did happen, but it's not going to necessarily happen again.
Yeah. It's yes, whatever happened did happen, but it won't necessarily happen again. Yeah, I think that really makes perfect sense to me. It's also the time travel model of Back to the Future, where if you go back in the past, you're going back into the past in the same timeline that you existed. And then you jump into the future again, you're still in that same timeline. Unlike another time travel model where as soon as you time travel, you create an alternate timeline where, you know what I mean? And I don't think the alternate timeline thing is happening here. I think it's all in the same timeline, but there are paradoxes that happen, and Gwen is one of them.
Correct. But she gets to stay because they put the piece back on the board where it should have been.
Yeah.
The piece being the protostar on Tars Lamore. Okay.
Yeah, on Tars Lamore.
Because until it went to Tars Lamore, she was the thing. I think she is inexplicably tied to the protostar. And that if the protostar had not gone back to Tars Lamore, Gwen would have disappeared. But because it went back, she materialized into like full strength.
Right.
And didn't need her little armband of love.
Listeners, I'm going to put in the show notes this graphic that I spent half of my day working on.
This graphic made my brain explode. Click the link, people. This is wild.
And this is why we sound like we're losing our minds talking about time travel and what happens and where it is in the world, because where in the world is Carmen Sandiego right now?
Where in the time is Carmen Sandiego? My very first job ever was at this school supply company working in software. And Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego was a computer program, but also Where in Space was Carmen Sandiego, Where in Time was Carmen Sandiego.
How did I not know that? I was obsessed with that game as a kid.
I was obsessed with the show.
Oh,
I wanted to go on the show.
Yes.
We need to talk to Erin and her husband Mark about that, because he was a contestant on that show. Anyway.
Okay, we're putting a pin in that. Okay, back to season 2.
Okay, let's talk about Chakotay. So we see a couple versions of him. We see him where he's been in the future for a couple years in prison, and then he
super fun
with his bird friend. Sorry.
Oh my God.
Oh wait, hold on.
His first officer.
Hold on, pause. Hold on, just 2 seconds. Can I tell you that this is going to be morbid, but one of my favorite moments was seeing that bird skeleton in all of its full, like, what is happening?
Oh
like you get to see like the end. You're like, oh, that's what they look like on the inside. It's wild.
Right. I thought those were just feathers, but there were like bones in the head that stick out. Like those are.
I know.
Wild.
It was
very
wild.
Alien.
Yeah. Made him more alien than alien.
I loved Jenkum's
it's hell of a beak
puns.
on a dreek.
I didn't mean to ruffle your feathers, but
so funny. But that's what I mean. Like, it's a cheese enough joke for kids to kind of get, but for us to be like, you're a dick. Like,
he's a kid.
I know, but he couldn't help it. But that's what I'm saying.
Help it.
He couldn't help it. So as an adult, you'd be like, don't do that. But every kid is like.
So and then we see a version of Chakotay that has been with the protostar on Tars Lamore for 10 years with just hologram Janeway, and he has a beard and he's gotten super freaking cranky.
Oh, you know who he turned into? He turned into Tom Hanks in Castaway. Like, oh, sir, relax. Like,
does that make hologram Janeway Wilson?
Absolutely. Absolutely. She's like, sir, what is your problem? He's like,
like, you still surprise me. Maybe you shouldn't have been awful to those children and left them outside to die.
To die. He said, they can figure it out. I did. Sir, they are babies.
You are a Starfleet officer and former member of the Maquis.
Have you forgotten your code of ethics? Like, what? That
Also, by the way,
wild.
though, I want to say that this is generally speaking of the Chakotay on this show, this is my favorite Chakotay.
Really?
You like
Yes.
surly, you like get off my lawn, Chakotay.
I mean, I like Prodigy Chakotay as
Okay.
opposed to
Okay,
Voyager
okay.
Chakotay. Which
Understood.
had you told me that if you had spoiled this and listed the legacy characters that were like going to come back on this show, and you said Chakotay is one of them, I'd be like, come on, really? Like
Yeah.
that's
How's that gonna
really
happen?
how
Do we
Why would they
really
do that?
Chakotay
Yes.
of
You'd
all the
be
characters to
sourpuss
come back?
face.
right? And
Yep.
Robert Beltran is kind of has a problematic personality. Sorry,
Yeah.
Is what it is. Facts
is what
are
it
facts.
is. Like that he sort of like broke all the rules during the SAG strike, and like
Oh, I did not know that.
yeah, he definitely like because they're not supposed to talk about their shows that have paid them.
Yeah.
They're not supposed to be promoting their properties at
Yeah.
conventions. So there was this whole thing where they were appearing at conventions and not talking about Star Trek. So it was like really weird. But he was like, "This is bullshit. Fuck this." Well, and he, in any case, I
What?
am not a big fan of, and hearing him talk about people who he likes, doesn't like at conventions, and like he just is kind of
Yeah.
a cranky, bitter kind of character. He seems like, so he would not have been
So
my
this-
choice.
to come back.
However, like the writers did such a good job with
Yeah.
him as this character, and sort of really leaning into what he was to Janeway, and
Mhm.
seeing him through Janeway's eyes almost exclusively, like made it so much more
Yeah.
impactful. And
Exclusively.
They did
Even when the
more.
Admiral. Oh, go ahead.
Oh
Mike.
yeah, I was just gonna say they did more with Chakotay in 20 episodes than Voyager did in 7 years.
for sure,
Wild.
yes.
Yeah.
And I don't
and
mean to blame the actor for that. Like that's the writers on Voyager. But like,
no, you're not blaming anything. Like we're just talking about the facts, right? Like, and the Badmiral that we got a real good Badmiral this time, douche McDoucherson, was like, we know what he means to you, but guess what? Fuck him. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, come on back however many light years away we are. And then we'll figure out how to get somebody out there to possibly, maybe, if we think it's necessary, to save him.
Yeah. Jellicoe.
Oh.
Let's talk about Jellicoe.
Mhm.
So he was definitely set up to as someone who we wouldn't like from the very beginning when we first see him in TNG, because he comes on board and takes over the Enterprise, which obviously that ruffled our feathers.
Yes. Not your ship.
And then he like was changing up things for what seemed like completely arbitrary reasons, like 4-shift rotation, 3-shift rotation, whatever. But if you look at it, if you step back and you're like, you know what, they were in this like very warlike moment with and he was in charge, and why were people questioning him? And like maybe he's not that bad. And then when we see him in the first season of Prodigy, I was like, oh, it's Jellicoe. Like, okay, like, he's being just an admiral. But here, he and Janeway disagree so much. And he keeps calling her Vice Admiral Janeway. You know what I mean? As if throwing that rank in her face to remind her that he outranks her.
Yeah.
Which is a dick move.
He's a dick. Like,
well,
and like he call her by her first name a couple of times?
He did, yeah.
Right. She calls him Edward. She calls him Edward.
She does call him Edward.
She comes back at him like, oh, so we're being casual now? We're formalities are out the window? Okay. So here's what's gonna happen. Like
Yeah, he's set up for us not to like him. And then, once she does the like, excuse me, I can't hear you. I'm breaking, you're cutting, I'm losing you.
Oh my goodness. I screamed. Like I was like, ah, like, and that's a little bit for kids, but also for us, because as adults, we know why she would do that. Kids are like, oh, that's just funny. You're hanging up on him because you don't want to talk. We're like, no, this is how you really get out of things, kids. Like, be like, there's quick.
There's a case to be made, though. Sure,
Mhm.
yes, we don't like him. We're not supposed to like him. He's not meant as likable. But
There's a
Jellicoe,
case
from the
for it.
very beginning, there's a case to be made that Jellicoe has been right. It is right all along, right? That
What's he right about? What is he right about, Damien?
he was he was right in running the Enterprise in Chain of Command, like
he was absolutely
like
right
they
in Chain
were
of
at
Command.
war.
Oh,
He
okay.
was right to tell Deanna Troi to put on a real uniform. Remember that?
Oh, well, yeah, because
He
she was walking
was
around looking like, she was going to the club.
Yes.
Right.
He was right to kind of be a dick to Riker, because Riker was like thinking that he was going to be the same old Enterprise with a new captain, right?
Yeah.
Riker was kind of insubordinate to him. And there's a case to be made that they're in the middle of the Romulan evacuation, that that they're going to send Janeway on this crazy rescue mission that involves time travel to rescue one guy with her entire ship. Like,
when you say it like that,
it's questioning, it's endangering the timeline that makes me think that maybe he's in the right. That he's like, you know what, like Starfleet has determined that it's too dangerous. You know what I mean?
We all know
close to the wormhole.
He's not actually right, because in order to really fix, they have to get in there and muck around to fix everything. We learned this over the course of the show.
Yeah,
but given the available information, like
even
he's doing
his
the
job.
right, he's doing his job. He's doing all of the things that he's supposed to do. He just is following the rules. That's all. He's not bad. He just is unlikable.
Okay. All right, but here's the thing. Even with all the information that we had at the time, dude, you're still wrong. Like, I understand everything you just said, Damien, but it didn't make sense to me for him to say, you're all the way over there. I want you to go all the way over here. And then we'll maybe send somebody back out all the way over there to deal with the issue. When at the end of the day, they could have just dealt with the issue.
Also, at the end of the day, he had no intention of sending anyone back. He was recalling her. He was he was throwing that in as like a consolation, maybe.
And she knew that, so that's why she said, "Fuck you and the boat you came on.
Yes.
I'm doing what I want to do. You're not fight me."
Yeah.
She knows the game, right? Like, if she were just a captain, she'd be like, "Oh well, me," but she knows the game. She's been in it long enough.
But she did, against her better judgment, against her own wishes, she did destroy the Infinity, or so she thought. Right? She thought that the Infinity drove it, flew into the star. Right?
Sure did. Guess what? She got fooled. But like.
Right.
Because
she thought she was. She thought that she was closing. She tried to follow orders.
She did. She really did. But she was going to do it on her terms, right? She wasn't just going to roll over and do exactly what he wanted her to do.
Yeah.
So good.
Can we talk about new characters?
Yep. Rebel.
You've already mentioned Majel.
Oh
my gosh.
What a perfectly written sort of character, like archetype.
Yeah.
You are in Nova Squadron. You are elite. You and your two buddies, and chest out. And then thinking that she's sort of better than, because she, she's good. And then realizing, oh, there's a different way to do things.
Yeah.
I guess.
And by the way, when you heard, you're like, oh, that like our core crew is getting a new Vulcan female. Weren't you like, dude, we already have T'Lyn.
Right. We don't need another one. We don't need another one.
She's not the same character.
Every show
different
needs
character.
A female
this
Vulcan.
is not.
Yeah. No. It's not. She's not T'Lyn.
She's like Vulcan.
Yeah.
And for me, when I loved her all along. I enjoyed when she said to the doctor, those did she think was she the one who was like the hollow novels, or did she want to know about the opera where she
the opera she wanted an opera lesson, which is like so intuitive. Like she leaned, she was like, okay, this fucking narcissist is so easy to play. Tell me
Yeah.
about your opera skills.
Yeah, it's like I need to
Right.
help them because they seem to really need to go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not my business, but it's my business. So I'm going to be a friend and
Yeah.
do this for them. And I was like, oh, yep, you've caught the bug. You realize
Well,
that, yes, you can follow rules, but guess what? You can also skirt them a little bit so that you can get something done.
I loved her and Zero.
Yes. Yes.
It was so sweet.
So sweet.
And when
And that
she
she
starts
liked her in her
reading his
original body.
mind.
Yes. And then, it's quick, but in the last episode, Zero has their new suit that has the
Yes.
tactile interfaces.
Yes.
And you see them doing the Vulcan,
Yep. Yeah.
finger touch that leads to sex thing, basically, but like the intimate finger touch thing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they're gonna, oh my gosh. They're like,
Also, I love her hair. This is Vulcan hair that we've not seen before, which, by the way, did it not make you think of our friend Luna and be like,
immediately?
Absolutely, it made me think of Luna.
I was like, oh, that's her hair. That's the hair.
Yes.
I was like, that is perfect. Absolutely perfect. But I also like the slow burn of their relationship. Like we still don't even know what it is going to be, but just the way that she would look at Zero, talk to Zero, it was like, oh, you really like them.
And she's the first telepath I think we've seen Zero really interact with.
Correct.
Correct. And she said, she was like, and my telekinet, my whatever is enhanced when around other, and Zero's like, like what?
No one's ever intentionally wanted to like communicate with me that way.
Right.
And it's very sweet and very special. Side note, what did we think of Zero and the people on the planet who had bodies that
not side note at all, central.
Okay.
No, that is a beautiful story.
Yes.
That is a beautiful story. And I loved that. I mean, that they figured out that first of all, that they didn't give Zero all the information to make the decision.
Yeah.
And
such a Star Trek trope, such a Star Trek story.
Yes.
We leave one little thing out.
Yeah.
Yes. And that they risk it's again, the friends risk their lives to make sure that Zero like understands their predicament. Also, by the way, this season I felt much more we knew this in the past, but that Zero is genderless, that Zero is non-binary. Like that hit somehow differently. It felt, it felt more like queer representation maybe than it did before. And maybe just because I perceived it different. I don't know. But
maybe.
No, it's because she was non-corporeal. She built her own body. Right.
Yeah.
She built something so that she could excuse me.
Yeah.
They built something that could house themselves without injuring their friends. And then go to a planet where they're like, oh no, this planet will build you a body.
They're all kind of identical bodies, which is correct. So weird,
which is like the planet of the non-binary people when Riker fell in love.
The outcast.
Sure.
That's what I thought about, right? So everyone is homogenous in the way that they look. And then the only reason that Zero was going to miss that body, not that was the body that they wanted, was because of the sensation of feeling. And then gets back into, Jango Pod builds Zero, the body that they built themselves and they actually wanted, with a little added flair of what they got when they had we'll call it alien body, the fleshy body.
The best of both worlds. Like it's.
But isn't that the story?
Yeah,
like,
I think that's exactly it.
Well, and that they get what they have wanted.
Yep.
And that they sacrifice it for their friends.
Correct.
Yes.
And then learn to sort of find themselves in what they already have.
Yep.
It's a beautiful story.
It really is.
Beautiful.
And they got to experience that whole cycle of having a body and then experiencing pain and experiencing not really a disability, but they were using like a
Cane.
a cane
No, but it
then
was debilitating.
yeah.
Like they started to break down, like they aged and like felt like what it would be. I looked at it like felt like what it would be to age.
Did you believe that this was a permanent change in the character when it happened? Like the second episode with the body? Were you like, oh, this is now Zero?
Yes,
going forward, always same.
I did too. Our fearless leader is frozen.
Oh, it's just us.
It's just
it also possibly means that we're frozen. So are we being recorded or is he?
I don't know. We're going to keep going.
We're going to keep going. Watch him fully disappear.
I know. Here's the thing. I honestly thought that it was permanent and that Zero was going to stay on the planet. Honestly, that's what I believed. That Zero was going to stay on the planet and that it was going to be like, I'd rather be here. And not really, but I kind of was like, oh, this is how Zero is now going to be like written off. Like you introduce the Vulcan who takes
as in the new Zero.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because can you have two telepaths together? Also, he said that there were 6, and so he wasn't used to there being 7. Hello, fearless leader. You have returned.
Sorry, we're having internet issues apparently.
And that's fine. We've let the listeners know that you disappeared and that Damien and I continued to chat about.
We did just fine.
Good.
Did you believe that Zero's body was permanent, Mike Jones?
I went on the journey. I was like, oh, sure. But I knew that deep down, I knew it wasn't going to be. I wasn't sure if they were going to go back into, a pod, like a globe body or not.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, they could come up with some kind of holographic interface like the Doctor, or they could,
no, but then you can't touch anything.
Body. And then I was like, oh no, if they get a synth body, they're about to ban all synths like next year.
Exactly.
Oh my God. I hadn't even thought of that. Yeah, because that's what I thought it was going to be. Is this going to be like a Soong body? Like what?
Right.
No. But here's what's interesting. Like, I know you say you went on the journey. I was saying to Damien that I kind of thought like, because they had the other telepath, were they like, okay, replacing one telepath for another. Right. Like, and because Wesley said there are 6. And then was like, oh, I guess there are 7, but 6 was the number that he originally said for them to be. So I was like, well, maybe Zero will go into the world. But here's what's hilarious. You were thinking that it was going to be a different type of body. I just thought about Mike Lebowski from Monsters, Inc. I was like, Zero is literally...
Yeah.
the alien from Monsters Inc. But I love them. And I love them so much, and I love that they went back into the body that they created, like the version of the body that they created for themselves.
Yeah. I liked the Starfleet built version of their suit in the first part of the season too. Mm-hmm. I was they got a huge upgrade. Like, this is really nice. But then, of course, then version 3 that we see at the end, it's like, okay, this is actually like perfect. Also, here's a question. This might have just been perspective, but is their new body bigger? Like, did they seem larger?
Yes, absolutely.
Like, that threw me off a little bit.
Jacob Pod was like, you're getting a bigger body.
Yes.
because also to go from globe to long, lanky, kind of look like the people from Pandora,
the Na'vi,
like in their length, in their like long, wiggly bodies. Right. That's what it reminded me of. To then stick Zero back in a tiny little globe, it's like, no, you got to give them some room,
evolve a little.
Yeah. I that was great. Jacob Pod is fucking amazing. So cool.
So great.
Like, I can build anything, switch my hand out. I can get you
Oh
what
my
you
God,
need.
when he starts controlling his hand from inside of the prison
Yes.
cell, loved it.
Brilliant.
Loved it.
He really went on a journey this season, because when we first see him, he has like his hair like parted and slicked down, and he's like,
Uh-huh.
I'm being Starfleet now.
Yes.
I'm
I take
controlling my
showers
temper.
I'm
now.
taking my
Right. I
emotions.
shower now.
I
I'm watching
won't
what
be
I say.
argumentative.
Right. And then that kind of goes out the window, but not really. You know what I mean? Like it's he finds a compromise where he's still himself, but still like has some Starfleet. Like he understands there's a time and a place.
Correct.
Not when it comes to bird puns, he can't help himself. But um can we talk about Asencia?
Yes.
Of course, we saw her last season.
Mhm.
First as a Starfleet officer that she was pretending to be, and then we find
Mhm.
out that she is another Valdecott person. I almost said human. That's not the right word.
Nope.
Being.
Yep.
Um, so in this season, she's gone full on mustache twirling villain.
Yes. Very.
Full
Very.
on tie them to the railroad tracks and walk away.
And
Like,
and when you see the younger version of her,
yeah,
like the voice is so different, and the like.
Mannerisms,
yeah.
all of it.
Yeah.
Just like
Yeah.
the Diviner, the younger version, same actor doing a completely different performance.
Mhm.
Um, it's yeah. I thought it was a good use of her as a character, especially giving her the salvation of having the younger version being the hero in the end, who's like,
Yes.
actually, no.
No. No.
I don't want to turn into this person.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I enjoyed her performance. What is her name? She was on The Good
Jamila
Place.
Jamil.
Yes. Like she was really sinking her teeth
Yeah.
into that performance. And I thought it was really great. Um,
Was she not also on The New Girl?
I
She
never
was
saw The
on The
New
Good
Girl.
Place.
The Good Place. Okay.
Um, yeah.
I was like, okay. I like the so the thing about kid shows is that the villain has to be villainy,
Yeah.
right? There was like no level. It was like, why were you so mad? Like you thought that you were gonna run the whole planet. Like the
Mhm.
plan was to warn them that someone was gonna come and tell you these lies, and Starfleet is really wants to destroy you. And then, she gets there and says, see, Gwen, I told you she was coming. And then you were what? Going to then take out all the elders and change the entire society so that you then ruled? Like I
It
didn't understand
Her plan was not well thought out. She went from
at
0 to
all.
60.
60, she was at 100. She was like, we're gonna do the special thing where we're gonna go into the vault and only one of us can come out, and I'm gonna kill you, and then I'm going to run the like, what was the end goal, I guess, is my true question. Like, what was she hoping she accomplished by proving Gwen to be a liar and getting rid of her?
Well,
Her goal was to prevent this civil war that
No,
eradicated her people,
but
right?
she went way
but
beyond that. I mean, like just convincing them that Gwen is evil and don't trust outsiders. Well, she wins the contest and they're like, "Oh, yeah, okay, we
great, she's
acknowledge you.
evil.
You
We're good.
won. We're not gonna greet Starfleet. Game over." And she's like, "No, not good enough. We need to destroy Starfleet."
Just what?
It's like, wait, when did we go from,
And
and
that's
then
what
she
and that's what I mean. She was like trying to take over the entire planet. It's like, ma'am, no one
yeah.
elected you.
And then Wesley Crusher saw that the only way out was through and kind of let her
Yeah.
do that and give her like this extra technology,
Mm-hmm.
this extra time travel to build her fleet really fast, because getting through that would actually end up with the right solution, which is
Correct.
mind blowing to me.
Absolutely. That's what I'm
Yes.
saying.
Like,
It
what?
like blow your whole your mind off. Like,
Yeah.
but I will say that the destruction of her was one of the cooler things that happened in the season. The fact that they all were like, we stand with you, Gwen. You are one of us. Like,
Yeah.
Because Gwen has always felt like an outsider, like she didn't belong. That's why her and Hale got along so well. When they finally got along, it was like, oh, I don't know what I am. I only know the diviner, so I don't really know my people.
Right.
And so she goes there and they're like, oh, you're not one of us. You weren't born here. You've never been here. And then at the end, for them to be like, you are one of us. You have come back home. I'm giving you my strength in the community. Like, that was beautiful. And watching her light up like a Christmas tree and the artifact? No, the gold thing.
Yeah, her artifact.
Oh, it's artifact, right?
No,
Is that
it's
right?
the
No. Not artifact.
Oh, what the hell is the word?
Oh no!
Oh my god, we're all blanking on it.
They each have their
Listener,
own.
I know you know it.
And you're shouting at us like I do this. This is what I do. This is what I do. I yell at people on the podcast. Yeah. So that gold thing, all of the gold just runs into her, and they burn out. I don't know. Someone's got to Google it real quick.
I'm trying.
Burns out her head, which was really wild because that's a terrible way to die. Is it artifact? We can't be quiet. Listen.
I know. That's funny. I can't. It's a weird thing to search for real quick because I'm not sure what to search for because I can't think of the word.
I'll search for it.
Oh my god, we're gonna have to edit this out because it's so bad.
No, it's not. What you all can do is talk about what I said. She wants to leave it all in.
It's
a. Mm-hmm. Oh, this is gonna be great. This will be great when you create the clips. It'll be all of us googling at the same time.
Oh my god! Somebody find it!
My gold thingy.
It's gonna drive me crazy.
And they each have one. And hers is like
heirloom.
Heirloom.
Oh my god! And the goo didn't help me. It was just my brain. It was my brain.
Good.
Yes, it's like you don't even have an heirloom.
Sorry, listeners.
And then no, they love that.
And she had her father's because he gave
everybody
her.
Likes to be smarter than the podcast they're listening to. Well, you came to the right place, guys.
Hello. Yeah, and it was great. That I enjoyed that moment. Like she got her comeuppance there. So
okay, can we back up a little bit?
Absolutely.
What was Gwen's strategy? Which strategy to do what? At the very beginning of the season, or at the very end of last season, everyone else is like, "We're gonna be Starfleet. We're gonna try to get into the academy," and she's like, "I'm gonna go save my planet." Yeah. And they give her a shuttle, and they're like, "Good luck." Like, did not prep her. No training.
She was prepping the whole time. She was like, remember the pilot was like, you've read those Starfleet first contact protocols backwards and forwards. You couldn't know that.
You're right. They did say that. But like it just felt
like yes, you're right. Yes.
She beams out all by herself. She's a child. She's like, hey, you guys, I'm part of your planet. Trust me. And Starfleet is great. Like it just seemed like a foolhardy, like whatever.
It did, but again, here's the thing. We're thinking of this in adult world.
Yeah, you're right.
For kids, it's like, yeah, I'm going to walk up to their door. I'm going to go, hi, I'm home. Guess what? I got some news for you. There's some people coming. They're great. I know them. You should know them too. Right? Like, it's that simple. We're like, what's our purpose? Simple. To go tell them that Starfleet is not... This is what we're saying. That's why it's a kid show with some adult stuff in it. Yeah.
How about the main character on this show, which is theoretically Dal?
He has the best journey, I think, this season.
Because of Chakotay. Because of Chakotay.
Well, to me, I realized what his journey in rewatching it. His journey is because from the minute he figures out what a captain is, like, I'm a captain. I'm just ready for the captain's chair. Can we skip all this? I'm ready to sit in the captain's chair, right?
Correct.
Right.
And
Kobayashi Maru, he wouldn't take no for an answer.
Correct.
Right. And what does he finally realize at the end?
I'm not a captain.
Gwyn is the captain. And he can find his purpose being her Chakotay.
Yeah,
Correct.
supporting her.
I mean, that was kind of a beautiful, like, because he's kind of annoying. I mean, he's objectively annoying in a lot of ways, right?
And that is why it was so difficult. I had to get out of an adult brain because I'm like, fuck, kid, shut up. No, that ain't gonna work. But you got to just let it happen. And him seeing in the jet stream when Wesley said, don't look into the jet stream. You'll see shit you shouldn't see. And what does he do?
He's like, I'm going to look
into the jet stream. And then he sees, Gwen, I'm sorry. And then he's sad for however many episodes after that because he thinks they're breaking up or whatever he thinks is going to happen.
Yeah.
Damien, I cut you off. I apologize.
No. In fact, that's what I didn't understand what he saw in the stream.
Is the last scene is the last scene where he's apologizing, thinking that it wasn't them breaking up. It was him saying to her, you are the I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I thought that I was supposed to be the captain when all along it was you.
It was always you.
It was always you.
It
was very sweet.
It was very sweet.
Can we talk about the Bribble? The Ribble?
The Bribble?
The Bribble?
The Melanoid slime worm? Oh.
Rock's baby. No,
Rock's
not
baby.
Merv. Rock's baby. That
the Bribble.
The Bribble.
Do you understand that I was like...
The Bribble, again, first of all, the Tribble episode itself was like, what is happening?
When that happened, when
Tribbles.
Wesley Crusher appeared, I was like, Aaron needs to watch this show. And then when the Tribbles appeared, I was like, Lenita, you better catch up. It's for you.
These Tribbles got teeth.
They were eating like what?
What?
And the Klingon's like, I can't leave until I fix it, sir. You just lay down. Just die a good death because you done fucked up and you's in trouble. Because those Tribbles were voracious. Oh, they was eating everything.
But then Rock Talk is smart and
she's not smart. She's a genius.
Genius.
She's truly, I feel like her character is sort of like one who has ASD because she's shy, introverted, but nerdy. And nerdy in a good way where she focuses in. She wants to learn everything about everything. Yeah. And she's an expert on that subject that she loves. I was like, oh, this is the dictator. But can be wild and brash when needs to be, but was just like, oh, but we could do this and da da da. And the Klingon's like, can she do that?
What?
And they're like, she built she built like the new warp core, the new containment for the actual star by herself with no one else. It's like she good. Yeah, she can figure it out. And if she hadn't sneezed, there would have been no Bribble. But
there would have been no Bribble.
I'm very happy that there was.
The Bribble also looks like it was designed to be a toy.
I want it if they do not make a Bribble so that I can buy it. It can be $24.99. I do not care. Give it to me.
She'll pay $25.
I will. And it doesn't even have to be that big. It can be the size of the Furby. Remember Furbies? They were nice little, they looked like slightly bigger than a softball. That's all I need. I just want to have it on my shelf. That's it. I love that little thing. Big old eyes. It was great.
Oh my gosh.
It was great. And I mean, I don't know if there's anything more to say about it, but I love the Bribble. I need it in my life. So cute. Did we like?
I just Googled Bribble, and there are Bribble toys, but
nope.
It's not the same.
Nope.
Thing.
I know. Of course it is.
Weird.
Something weird. Someone decided to be weird about it. Don't like it. Make the one that I saw.
Oh my god, that's so funny. Okay.
Did we like Merv? Well, one of my favorite things, Merv being totally security and kicking ass and taking names. But then when Merv turned into a
Wait, are you saying
swimming
Merv, like Merv Griffin?
what's its name?
Murph.
Murph.
Murph. Oh, okay. Merv Griffin. You know what I'm talking about.
I do.
My favorite little gummy bear turned into like a swimming like like an eel in the water
Oh
with
yes, grew a
Yeah.
with the
tail.
whale.
In
I
the
was like,
Speaks to
water.
the whale.
I was like, oh, okay.
The whale named Jillian.
Correct.
Oh my God, the whale. Which, by the way, is not. This is a reference that you don't get yet, Lanita.
I don't.
It's a
'Cause I
whale
haven't-
named Jillian.
Well, when we watched Star Trek 4, the one with the whales.
Okay. I can't wait. It's gonna be great. I was like, that's fun. I like that Murph can transform now in this
Yeah.
new form into other forms without like permanently changing. It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I can put this other skin on real quick.
The water really, I don't know if it was an involuntary response to being in water, or if Murph was like, oh, it would be convenient if I had a beautiful tail right now.
Yeah. So much easier to be
Right.
in this medium. It was great.
Also, you know who the voice of Jillian was?
No.
Our convention friend Bonnie Gordon, who we lost the elevator bet to.
Oh, Bonnie Gordon. That's
yes, because she's the
amazing.
computer, right? So
Yes.
Hmm.
Right. That's amazing.
Did we randomly, when they ended up on the ship, going through the turbo lifts and ending up in different universes within the universe?
It reminds me of that Voyager episode Twisted that I just talked about.
Yes, or Shattered. There's another one called Shattered.
Shattered,
right? Where they're, which is the same as sort of the time bug episode of Discovery that we just saw this year.
Again, another Star Trek trope. I think it was a good example of this show taking those Star Trek tropes and introducing them to children. Like you beam down to a planet and they act like they're giving you everything, and then at the end you find out sacrifice. Like
right. If you had seen like the Whistle Speak episode of Discovery this year, where Tilly has to like run the race.
Yeah, it's
you
like,
would
is
have
this
known
the same
that the
episode?
race was darker than
that there was going to be something that was going to go awry.
Yeah, that maybe you don't actually want to win.
But I loved that episode gave us well, first of all, I guess references to Captain was it Captain Tuvix or Captain?
Yes.
Like, what?
Again, a scream, like an audible gasp out of my mouth. Oh.
And we dipped into the mirror universe, which is always fun.
Oh my God, Chakotay with a goatee. Can I tell you when?
And Janeway with a Borg implant.
Yes.
When did that happen? Like
evil Janeway.
And Chakotay being like, oh, our Chakotay being like, oh, all I need is this. We take like the grease from
Jenkins' wrist.
And was like, bing. I was like, oh, okay, that's wild.
And it didn't work. It didn't fool her. Like
absolutely.
How good. But still.
Again.
And then he comes back and it's like, what's on your face?
Right.
And again, that's a kid thing. Like, oh, all I have to do is draw on a mustache.
Yeah.
And I'll be the other person, right? Like those little things like made me laugh out loud to be like, oh, this is so for kids, but I really enjoy it. I really enjoy it. Randomly, I think that we were all supposed to get a Temporal Mechanics 101 book to help us. I think if we had that, we would understand the timeline and all of the things, because it wasn't until he read it that he understood all of the things that were happening. So some fan somewhere needs to create one of those so that I can read it.
Well, I love that he chose to do the YouTube tutorial version of reading it with Erin McDonald, who's the actual science advisor on the show. That they animated and she voiced it.
That's awesome.
Amazing. But okay, let's talk for a second about Janeway and Chakotay. First of all, I never really shipped them. Like there were like Janeway Chakotay shippers out there who like think that they
of course
are a thing. And I was worried because she's so pining for him and everything, that when they finally got together, it was going to be like, music and running through the fields towards each other kind of thing. And thank God it wasn't. I mean, it was never going to be that, but they're not really a thing. It's like it's more than that. Like they have this really deep bond that is not romantic.
Sexual.
Thank
He's
God.
her number one.
Yes. It's just that if it had been Tuvok who was stuck in the future instead of Chakotay, then I never would have questioned, because she would do anything for Tuvok.
Right.
But the fact that it was Chakotay, I was like, oh, is he your boyfriend? But no.
But
thank
the thing
God.
is, aren't you? It
Yeah.
seems like the reason that people want to ship Chakotay and Janeway is because she a lady and he not.
Right.
And so of
Right.
course they can't have a platonic, like a very strong platonic relationship that is built on trust and admiration and actual love, but platonic love, not I want to jump your bones love.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and Kate Mulgrew has said that in the first couple seasons, she really fought against Janeway having a love interest, that Janeway would not fraternize with, in that way, a member of her crew, like that she just wouldn't do that. Especially in the situation that they're in, where, if you go south, you're stuck in the Delta Quadrant with this person, and they can completely undermine your authority.
Correct. But I was happy the way that but I never thought that she was fighting to get him back because she was in love with him and wanted to be with him romantically.
Right.
It was that he was her person, a la Christina Yang, Meredith Grey of Grey's Anatomy. And so it's been a while since I've brought that up.
Welcome back.
But this is one of those moments where it's like, he is her person and she is his. And they're going to do whatever it takes to get back to one another, because that's who they are to each other. And it has nothing to do with like making me tingly in my nether regions.
Right. It just made me very happy that the way they dealt with it in the end.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's very satisfying.
Yeah.
Can you guys believe that Paramount was just going to just kick all of this that had already been created, just kick it to the curb for a tax write-off?
Yeah.
That's insane. That makes
capitalism doesn't care about your creativity. I didn't make that up. That's a guy that I follow on Instagram who does beautiful floral arrangements, but Bloom and Plume. That's just the truth.
That's the fact. That's true. You're right. It kills me, but you're right. It's capitalism.
I'd rather take the tax write-off. Yeah. It's like, okay, yep, paid all these people, did all this work, but guess what? I could get a giant tax write-off if I never show it.
Right. Well, it's like that's what happened with the Batgirl movie. Not to, I mean, it arguably, maybe it was bad. I don't know, but they decided to just kill it.
Oh, Batgirl. Yeah. It was probably terrible.
It's possible.
Who was Batgirl?
Oh gosh.
Oh, don't.
All right, never mind. We'll
it's going to hurt his head. It's so long ago. Like they did the whole movie, and they were
they filmed the whole thing.
Whole thing. They were
that's why it's like
because that's why it's funny. But here's the thing: is that because they show these movies and whatnot to audiences prior to them being released, right? Prior to there being a final product. So, you resonated with this, but you didn't really like it. So then they go back and they cut and da.
Right, test audience,
yeah. That movie could not be saved, but also I think this could be. Like, you just gotta give it a chance. You got to give it a chance. I mean, I'm gonna watch season 3 when it comes out. I'm still gonna be mad that they're children and they haven't really learned.
That doesn't seem like a given by any means.
Well, let's talk about how it ends. Like it ends with speaking of, I mean, I feel like we're running out of time a little bit.
Okay.
But so they save the day. Spoilers.
Yep. They fix it.
And Janeway says that the whole fleet is engaged in the Romulan evacuation.
Correct.
And they have this one ship that was deemed that the only thing it's good for is exploration. It wouldn't be
That's it.
helpful in the evacuation. And these kids like get this ship,
because they've already
and they
proven
get their
they can do a
pips.
ship.
With fleet promotions to ensigns. It did make me think of that Deep Space Nine episode where Nog is on like the ship of cadets,
Yeah.
because it seemed, when I saw that episode, I was like, why does these kids have this ship? And I'm like, oh, okay, that's precedent now. So it makes sense that these kids have this ship.
They've already had a ship, so give them another one. It's totally fine.
Right.
Like, I mean, they brought it back. It was funny, like when she opened the thing, it's like, are those pips? Like, is that the golden ticket? He's got the golden ticket.
Oh my gosh. Well, so and great. Then at some point they show something about like First Contact Day or Federation Day or whatever. First Contact Day.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, First Contact Day, like, oh, that's a little ominous. And boom, it happens. They're like, oh, all the synths just attacked Mars. And I was like, oh God, we are ending on this like Pearl Harbor, like dark moment in the timeline.
Yeah.
Yep. To get me ready for season 3, where they go help out, and you never know.
Yeah, I really hope there's a season 3.
I do too.
And all of that is dependent on its success on Netflix.
Yes.
And so,
well, they say the first month is really important. So like, you could always just have it open on a screen
and watch it again.
And just have it going.
I'll do that. I'll do that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Random question out of my fun list. What's your out of 10? What are we giving this season?
Oh.
Are we keeping it in the context of Star Trek? Like, is it the best Star Trek series out of 10, or just like?
I mean, just your ranking, right? Like if you had to rank TNG as a whole, what would be your like?
Oh God, you can't ask me to do that. It's like
No. Would you give it a 9 out of 10? Would you give it a 10 out of 10?
10 out of 10, 9 out of 10.
Or would you give it a 9 out of 10 because it took a little while to get going in the first? There are more good episodes than there are bad, but I can't discount the bad ones because they were really bad. Like TOS, is that a 6 out of 10? Like, that's what I'm saying.
Oh my God, it's like rate your children.
Yes.
Well, what's your rating, Lenita? It's your question.
8 out of 10.
8 out of 10.
Mm-hmm. Because I was thoroughly surprised and pleased at the level of growth for each character. I enjoyed there were more highs than there were lows. And of the lows, they weren't like in the basement lows. Like I did want to punch the girl who went from 0 to 100 in her face. Like I did want to stomp her out. Like she just was too much. It was too much.
Essentia.
Yeah, Essentia.
Okay.
Like gotta go. Right. Like I didn't, that was too much. But everything else, like pulling all the pieces of canon in, giving us little tidbits of things that as adults and as people who love Star Trek get to see now, like the mirror universe, getting the whale that I will eventually get to, like, and know why it's super funny that there's a whale talking, right? Tribbles, right there, you get 2 points from me. You know, a Klingon who's a scientist, like who is against what a Klingon is, and then
who we've seen
like all of that. I was like, oh, and when it ended, I was like, okay, I can go back and watch it again to enjoy it. Like, not for this. Like, I powered through so we could talk about it. Mm-hmm. But I will, as Damien started a rewatch, like I'll rewatch it.
Yeah. I needed to rewatch it if I was going to talk about it because I felt like my head was spinning at the end. Yeah. And I think part of that is the way that it was released and having just watched it too fast. Like I didn't digest it one episode at a time. If I couldn't watch anymore, I would pause it, and chances are I was mid-episode. So I wasn't getting a sense of like what was an episode even. It was just like a stream of animated Trek that was moving very fast. And so I am not, I think that the binge actually hindered my ability to really enjoy it, to like actually take each episode in and appreciate it as its own episode.
I can see that.
Because think about it. I mean, it came out like a week and a half ago. We would be on episode 2.
Right. Yeah.
Then we watched
1 week
20.
at a time. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're also
They're short, but it's well, first of all, I think my scaling is often skewed when something is brand new. Like any Star Trek that first comes out, the first time I see it, I'm like, oh my God, this is the best. You know what I mean? Even if like it really isn't. I mean, I walked out of the theater after Into Darkness and was like on cloud nine, loved it. And then and then, like you look back on it and you're like, oh, actually,
Yeah.
okay. Like I was excited in the moment.
Yeah.
It was new, So I'm
Yep.
trying to take that into account. But I think 8 out of 10 is pretty appropriate. It really
Yeah.
checked a lot of boxes. Is it the Trek that I'm going to put on in the background to make me like, feel good? No,
No.
because it doesn't have the nostalgia that like
Nope.
90s Trek has, like nothing will.
Right. It's also it didn't feel like it was for me.
Yeah,
But
sure.
I loved it still.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. Like there was enough in it that as a grown-up who loves Trek, there's enough for you to glean and enjoy watching it.
Yeah.
And even if you only watch it twice just because you powered through the first time, you'll be like, oh yeah, like as it's a good series. Like they made better choices for characters. And I think that introducing the Vulcan was great. Introducing that whole idea of like Nova Squadron again, because we know about them.
Right.
And then the change and being like, we need like him being a part of that. Like, can he fly?
Oh, sure.
Right? Like, sure can.
Yeah.
Let me show you.
He did it.
And him proving himself in that way. Like, I don't know. 8 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
Also, by the way, a random thing that I loved in that flying episode, that Kazon, who was like possessed and then actually and became unpossessed and was actually super sweet, like that was a very unexpected shift. And that was because there are too many times in Star Trek where we see an alien that is entirely governed by the single trait of their species. Like a Ferengi is evil, or rather is greedy, and a Romulan is conniving, and and to see that like this Kazon at the end was actually like, goodbye everyone, good luck, like was like actually really sweet and an interesting, unexpected turn. So
yeah.
It was full of all these weird little surprises like that and like twists on I think they did a really good job of that, of like sort of respecting these traits that we know to be central of various alien races, but creating individual characters from them,
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
So what's your number?
Damien, what's your number?
Are you not going to give us a number?
I'm going to say, I don't want to give a number, but I'm going to say 8 because I agree with you, because I really, I'm still sort of in the glow of it.
Yeah.
And it's, it is, and also I think that it's contributed to canon in ways that are interesting in this sort of Picard era canon.
Yeah.
And is giving us more building blocks towards the legacy that we want.
Yeah. I mean, it's in some ways it's the Voyager sequel.
Yes.
But then also it gave this great continuing story for Wesley Crusher.
Right. That to me, that was, I'm not a
You're
I'm not Aaron. I'm not Aaron. I'm not the Wesley Crusher stan. But it really sort of like
it gave
Wesley
you
had so many annoying things.
Yeah.
And like, but Wesley was really actually central to Next Generation in so many ways.
Yeah.
And that episode where he does return, and when the Traveler finally returns near the end of Next Generation and he leaves with him, was like weird and problematic in so many ways, and not really a satisfying departure for Wesley.
It wasn't,
And they gave us this little Picard season 2 teaser on Wesley when he appears briefly. And this was just a much more satisfying, update on Wesley that I wasn't really aware that like you said, I didn't know I needed.
I'm telling you, this new universe of Trek, they're writing fully realized characters.
Yeah.
They are letting them go on a journey. They're letting us see them grow. And the fact that in a kid's show, you see such growth in each of these characters from season 1 to season 2 is amazing. And I think that it's showing kids that you can think that there's only one way to be, but with time and experience and exposure, you can be more than you thought you could.
Right.
Yeah. What if I just started playing the Hailing Frequencies closed music as you're speaking? That like went through my head.
But how do puppets age? And do they grow hair? Do they wrinkle?
I was like
Do they have a pus?
I was getting the QLab ready, and I was like, "What if I just hit go right now while we're talking?"
It would be great, and
it's like the Oscars. You're getting played off.
No, I'd be like, no, hold on, I need more time. But I listen. I think it's great to end on overall impressions, and I think that
absolutely
that at the end of the day, 8 out of 10, even after the glow, it can maybe drop to 7.5, but I still think it's 8 out of 10, just because they really. I'm glad that they didn't go for the tax write-off.
Amen.
Oh my God. I cannot imagine how heartbreaking that would have been for so many creative people who contributed to this show. I mean,
well, and let's hope that it does well enough to keep going. Well, and there's big changes happening at Paramount. I mean, they're hopefully getting bought or merged with Skydance, and so hopefully that means more Star Trek rather than less Star Trek in the future. That's what I'm saying.
Dan Skippy, more Star Trek all the time.
Well, thank you all for listening and enjoying this long look at Star Trek Prodigy Season 2. Hey, we talked about 20 episodes in one episode, so I'm pretty proud of us. If you liked us, give us a review where you get your podcast. Find us everywhere on the socials at Hailing Frequencies Open. And with that, I will say, Hailing Frequencies closed.
No goodbyes. Just good memories. Hailing Frequencies closed, sir.